Mystery Unsolved. I am your host. I am Welcome to the latest episode of Mystery Unsolved. I am, of course, your host, Justin Bienvenu, and we do this shit live. There are no other takes, so the awkwardness comes with the territory. Tonight's episode might sound a little bit familiar to some of you. It's a very recent case in the sense that it's been done recently. I am, of course, referring to the mystery on the rooftop, the mysterious death of Ray Rivera. If that name or the title sounds familiar, that is because it was the first episode of the new Unsolved Mystery series that came out in 2020. Now, the reason I decided to do this one is because one, it was the first episode of the new Unsolved Mystery series, and also it is a very strange case. There's a reason they call stuff unsolved mysteries. This is it. So I have two articles open. We shall see how they go. One of them is actually from unsolved.com, the Unsolved Mysteries official site. So I'm actually going to save that one second. So without further ado, Mystery Unsolved, Mystery on the Rooftop. All right. The body of Ray Rivera was found on May 24, 2006, inside the historic Belvedere Hotel in the Mount Vernon neighborhood of Baltimore, Maryland. Although the event was ruled a probable suicide by the Baltimore Police Department, the circumstances of Rivera's death are mysterious and disputed. So he actually stayed at the Belvedere, which is very interesting. I actually know someone who stays at the Belvedere, so I think I'm going to have to ask them if they know anything. The medical examiner ruled death as an undetermined, however, the police ruled it probable suicide. So we're going to make an official rule here on Mystery Unsolved. I hope you don't mind. Anytime the police rule a death, a mysterious death, as a suicide, you know what we're going to rule it not to be? A suicide. Because you know what police ruling a mysterious death as a suicide says to me? It says to me that they're incapable of doing their freaking jobs. If it doesn't look like a suicide and it doesn't really sound like a suicide, it shouldn't be considered a suicide. Ugh, we haven't even got into it, and I'm just kind of like scratching my head. All right. Normally, I don't give you too much background, but seeing as Ray Rivera was a common man, we kind of need a little bit more of a backstory on him. I'll be more than happy to provide. Ray Omar Rivera was born on June 10th, 1973, to Angel and Maria Rivera. At the time of his disappearance, Rivera was a 32-year-old finance writer for the Oxford Club as a video contractor. I have no idea what any of that means. It means a finance writer for the Oxford Club as a video contractor. Rivera and his wife Allison had relocated from California to Baltimore to work for his longtime friend, Porter Stansberry, as a writer and videographer for Stansberry's investment company, Stansberry and Associates Investment Research, a subsidiary of Agora. Try saying that 5 times fast. Rivera had stopped working for the company 6 months prior to his death in May of 2006, but according to Stansberry, did freelance work for another subsidiary of Agora Publishing. Okay, so basically, he's got a wife. He works for one of his good buddies, hence the reason they moved. He's a videographer, he's a writer, and apparently for 6 months he didn't work, but he did freelance work for like a side project. That's what it sounds like to me. I'm just summing it up, not repeating what I just read. I'm just kind of putting it into English so we can all understand. Rivera went missing from his residence on May 16, 2006, after receiving a phone call from the Agora Publishing switchboard, according to a guest staying at the Rivera home at the time. After several days of searching for clues on Rivera's whereabouts, his wife's parents found his car located in a parking lot off of St. Paul Street in Mount Vernon near his workplace. Rivera's coworkers went to the top of the parking lot. Rivera's coworkers went to the top of a parking structure near where the car was discovered and noticed a hole in the roof of the south wing of the Belvedere Hotel. Police soon discovered Rivera's partially decomposed body inside the conference room under the roof's hole. Yeah, yeah, that happened. As police began to analyze the case, numerous aspects seemed odd about Rivera jumping off the main roof of the Belvedere Hotel, partly due to the hotel's mansard roof. There was a considerable horizontal distance between the hotel tower and the location of the hole in the lower roof. So, this was one of the first things when I watched the episode that I noticed. Like even before anyone said anything, you just saw like here's where he was supposedly standing, like on top of the parking structure. And then here's the roof. Hold on. Sorry. There we go. And like the distance between them was like the hole that they found in the roof, like it says here. There's no way. He would have to have like had a running start. But even then, if you're killing yourself by jumping off of a building, why are you getting a running start? Like, that doesn't make any sense. Like, oh, I really want to make sure nobody finds my body. Like none of that makes yeah, none of that makes any sense. The vertical fall of approximately 177 feet, building height 188 feet equals 57 meters, would have taken approximately 3.3 seconds. This suggests if he did come from the roof and traveled a horizontal distance of 43 feet before impact, he would have had to have had a horizontal speed of 10 miles per hour, which is between a fast jog and a sprint for an average fit male wearing sports shoes. Ray was wearing flip-flops or barefoot and would have had to have had a maximum run-up of just over 15 feet or 5 meters. Do you remember what I said at the beginning? How the police chalked it up to suicide? Yet the police were probably the first people to have the considerable evidence of he was wearing flip-flops. He could not run. No mortal living man can run 10 miles per hour in flip-flops. Not even Usain Bolt could do that. I don't care who you are. So police, once again, it was a suicide. Did you read any of the evidence? Did you read the fact that the man had flip-flops on? Did you read the fact that he would have to have started running from the one end of the building all the way over? And even then, I'm not a math wizard, nor am I good with ratios and stuff. But the distance, the speed, the trajectory, the horizontal, the vertical, none of it makes any freaking sense. There's no way this man jumped to his death based off of that paragraph. So what does it all come down to when it's the police? We're too lazy to do our jobs. He committed suicide. No, he did not. In fact, let it be known that when I do my theories as to how he died, we're going to leave suicide right off. Do you know why? Because I just proved that it wasn't. Evidence has proved that it wasn't. Everybody that worked on this case, other than the police, proved that it wasn't. So, yeah. An additional theory is that Rivera may have jumped from a ledge several floors below the roof, but it would have been difficult for Rivera to access the ledge from the privately owned condominiums and offices that the windows that had windows onto the ledge. Rivera's eyeglasses and phone were found relatively intact on the lower roof near the hole. Because circumstances surrounding the incident are unclear, the medical examiner marked Rivera's manner of death as undetermined. Which it is. Okay. But they even just said, even if this man jumped off the roof, he couldn't have jumped from the distance he couldn't have jumped from where they said he jumped. It would make more sense if he jumped a lower level, because that way the hole was actually reachable, perhaps. Have you ever heard of an unsolved mystery coming down to science? Because that's what we're dealing with here. According to Stansbury's publicist, there was no gag order or direction given to employees to not speak to the press, law enforcement, or any other party. After searching the house for evidence, Allison found a note behind Rivera's computer. The confusing note included the names of prominent figures in Hollywood, movie titles, Freemasonry quotations, and additional ramblings. The Federal Bureau of Investigation, the FBI, analyzed the note and ruled it not to be suicidal in nature. You needed the FBI to analyze a note to determine it wasn't suicidal? How about, dear wife, dear family, I'm not going to off myself. Not a note that's got movie titles, Freemasonry quotations, and additional rambling. Like, the only person that would ever have an encrypted suicide note would be the Riddler. Like, and I'm pretty sure we're not dealing with a Riddler here, so I question that one. Police would soon step back from their investigation into the case after ruling Rivera's death as a probable suicide. No, it's more or less like, I don't want to do my job. It was not I'm sorry, it was not a freaking suicide. It wasn't. It wasn't a suicide. Listen, I know as much about trajectories and math and science, probably as much as a police officer would. Yes, I'm discrediting police science. Because this ain't police science. This is unbelievable. In 2021, new theories about the case emerged in a new investigation carried on by the forensic expert Miriam Moya, which invalidates the theory of suicide. Thank you. Focusing on the hit and run as a possible cause of death. Her research has been published in the book Ray Rivera, Suicide or Homicide. See, they didn't include that in the episode. That actually that's a good theory. This suggests that he was standing right on top of the roof. There was a car there because it's the parking garage, if you remember. And then, boom, he gets hit. Whoops, he gets hit. That would actually make some sense. Although I'm not gonna lie, I'm not trying to be morbid or disrespectful, but I kind of want to see the trajectory of that. Like, I want to see him fly. I want to see somebody flying through the air for that. I'm just curious, like the science of it. All right. So that's the first article. Now we're going to go to the official website, Unsolved Mysteries, and we're going to read it from. So it's probably going to sound a lot more familiar to me, and probably a lot more familiar to those that watch this in the playback that have watched this episode. I'm sure there's people like that who exist, right? It is worth noting that Ray Rivera was a newlywed. That is interesting as well. So there's another thing about it not being a suicide. He literally just got married to his wife. Like, why the freaking hell would you off yourself after you literally just got married? Police? But In 2006, Ray and Allison Rivera have been married for 6 months and have been living in Baltimore for 18 months after relocating from Los Angeles when Ray was offered a job. Now they're making plans to move back to California. Look at that. There's a little more intel. I imagine the more that I read, the more we're going to be like, guess what? It wasn't suicide. Police, Baltimore police, you were about as incapable of solving a case as 1940s policemen. 6 days later, Ray's car is found in a parking lot next to the Belvedere Hotel, which of course I just read. On the evening of May 16, 2006, Allison Rivera is out of town on a business trip when she tries to call Ray, but he doesn't answer. At 9:30 p.m., Allison phones her coworker, Claudia, who's staying at the couple's home. Remember there was a guest? Leave it to unsolved.com to give you the actual name of the person and what she is to them. Claudia tells her that at 6 p.m. she heard Ray answer a phone call, respond, "Oh," then rush out the house. At 5 a.m. the next morning, Claudia calls Allison to say Ray is still not home. Knowing this is out of character for him, Allison immediately drives back to Baltimore, calling hospitals, police, friends, and family looking for Ray. And she files a missing person report with police. Family and friends fly in to aid in the search, which doesn't turn up a single clue or witness. 6 days later, Ray's SUV is found in a parking lot next to the Belvedere Hotel in downtown Baltimore. The parking ticket shows it had been there since the 16th. So there's a picture. I'll try to show it to you. I don't know how well you'll be able to see it, but it's the shock outline of where his body was found, and it's one of the creepiest things like ever. You can see that. Yeah, yeah. Ray's body was found in the conference room of the Belvedere. Like, unless he was Superman, Baltimore police, I don't think he killed himself. I don't think he was a bird. I don't think he was a plane. And again, he wasn't Superman, so on May 24th, three of Ray's coworkers from Stansberry and Associates, the publishing company where he worked, decide to search for clues in a parking structure adjacent to the Belvedere. From the fifth floor down on the roof of a lower annex of the Belvedere, and see two large flip-flops, a cell phone, and glasses. Next to these items is a hole in the roof. Can you imagine, like, you try to do your due diligence and help finding your coworker, and you find his belongings, and you're like, well, he's not here. And then you look over at the Belvedere Hotel and see a freaking hole in the roof. You're kind of like, I wonder if any of them kind of like made the connection immediately, like, huh, that's weird. I wonder. Oh God, you don't think? Like, imagine coming across that about a hole in the roof about 40 centimeters in diameter. Overcome by a sense of dread, they call the police. Okay, so they all had this. They all were drawn the same conclusion. Like, this doesn't add up. When hotel concierge Gary Shivers opens the door to the conference room that is under the hole, they discover a severely decomposed body. Okay, my question here, maybe it's talked about in the episode. I don't really remember. Do you not use the conference room in the hotel? Decomposed body. That means his body was sitting there for a good. This was on the 24th, correct? On the 24th. 16 and 16. That's 32. I told you I sucked at math, right? Okay, so 16 plus 10, that'd be 26. So minus 2. So yeah, over a week, severely decomposed. So that means they didn't use that conference room for a whole week. Apparently, they don't use the conference room in the Belvedere Hotel. Allison and Ray's family are devastated by the news and even more baffled when the Baltimore police declare the death a suicide. I'm sorry, Allison. I'm sorry for you. I'm sorry that the Baltimore police are so retarded that they immediately were just like, yeah, your husband killed himself. Based off what? Ray had no psychological issues and exhibited no signs of stress or depression. And what was Ray doing at the Belvedere? Well, I mean, technically he wasn't at the Belvedere, but yeah, he was at the Belvedere, but I'm pretty sure it wasn't up to his own volition. Homicide detective Mike Bayer is the first on the scene, and when he sees Ray's belongings on the roof, his gut instinct tells him the scene looks staged. Ray's cell phone is still working, and his glasses are unscratched after falling 13 floors, and no one can understand exactly which part of the roof Ray would have had to jump from to land where he did. Another troubling aspect to case is no one at the hotel remembers seeing a 6'5" man anywhere in the hotel the evening of May 16th, and it would have been extremely difficult for Ray to find his way to the roof. So this sounds like maybe it could possibly have been like late at night, or they just whoever did this, like again, now we're gonna put a person that we don't know exists into this. The medical examiner has declared the cause of Ray's death as unexplained, which it is. Allison believes Ray was. I don't know why I'm adding S's to people's names. Allison believes Ray was murdered and wonders if his death is somehow connected to his work writing financial newsletters for Stansbury and Associates. The Rebound Report provided financial advice to subscribers who paid upwards to $1,000 for each newsletter in years past. The company had been cited by the Securities and Exchange Commission for producing false leads. The call Ray received around 6 p.m. on May 16th was from those offices, yet no one came forward to admit that they made the call. Huh. So that's interesting. So obviously, if anybody knows a reason as to why he would be, if anybody would have a theory as to think he was murdered, it would be his wife. His wife would be obviously the first one that would know anything. The medical, oh, we already talked about that. Oh, the medical examiner declared it as the death as unexplained because there are too many unanswered questions. Exactly. I was gonna say it again, but then I was like, let's just move on, Justin. Let's just move on. Therefore, the case must remain open with the Baltimore Police Department. Well, well, if you leave it up to them, they're probably just gonna close that shit faster than you can blink or say the word murder. Alison Rivera still holds on to hope that someone will come forward with a clue or a lead to the mysterious death of her husband. And there's 99 comments here. This woman's like, oh, it's anonymous. This person's like, boom. This person gives theories. All right. So here's the theory. Someone killed him. Okay? We don't have to beat around the bush on this one. He didn't commit suicide. He was murdered. How he was murdered is probably the bigger, like, there should be theories on to how he was murdered. So let's go over those. Number one, someone threw him. this isn't mentioned, it's not the craziest thing in the world. We don't know the people that he had dealings with. For all we know, there could have been a big muscle-bound guy. I mean, Ray himself was 6'5", so that's also worth noting, actually. Look at that. Look what I just found. Ray was 6'5", so there would have to have been a man of equal size or bigger, which that'd be interesting, to take him and just huck him off the roof. And he just falls right down, puncturing the hole, landing in the conference room, where he remained for over a week, and the hotel people didn't know. I want to know what the hotel people are doing by not opening the damn conference room door for over a freaking week. We don't have dealings there, sir. Not every day, but at least once a week, right? Like, how do you? And also, what made the guy open the conference door? Did he smell Ray's body? Like, what made him go into the conference room? Because clearly they're not going into the conference room every day. There should be a whole freaking episode on that. Okay, so all right, so yeah, theory number one of him being murdered, because I'm chalking it up to murder. Someone hucked him off the roof. Two, I really like the one I read that someone, it was a hit and run that actually happened as early as 2 years ago. Somebody suggested that he was hit by a car. Now, my question is, if he was on top of the roof, obviously maybe he was at the, but why would he be at the ledge? So somebody must have drove him up there, or he was meeting somebody. Maybe that's it. Maybe he was meeting somebody on top of the roof, and he was waiting for them. And then rather than like call them up or stop somewhere, like they're just coming off the roof full speed right towards him. They hit him, and then boom, he just goes. Not the craziest thing in the world. Those are the only two theories I have. I don't really understand what else could be a theory, because then we could start talking like, oh, he was thrown out of a plane or a helicopter. Obviously, that's crazy. There's no evidence of there ever being any. But yeah, my theory, I think it's one of those two. I mean, again, I'm not going to say it's one or the other, because again, it's unexplained and unsolved for a reason. It's really bizarre. The fact that this man's body was found in one spot and his belongings were found in a totally other spot in the trajectory. I'm not gonna say their name. But yeah, I think either someone hucked him off the roof with incredible force, or it was a hit and run and a car hit him. And God forbid, did anybody actually see a 6'5" man flying through the air on the night of May 16th? What do you think? It doesn't really matter what you think, because guess what? You're not going to come forward. You're not going to comment. So I'm probably just going to skip this whole last part of what do you think happened for future videos. That's how we're going to start this year off. For Mystery Unsolved, I am, of course, your host, Justin Bienvenu. This has been Mystery on the Rooftop. Till next time.